Hello and welcome to State of the Union. I'm Stefan Grobe in Brussels. It's a make or break moment for Europe's relationship with China, if you believe the EU Trade Commissioner. Valdis Dombrovskis ventured into the lion's den this week, telling his Chinese counterparts that the EU has had it with their lawless capitalism. Both sides could now choose a path towards mutually beneficial relations or a path that slowly moves both sides apart, he said. Pointing to a staggering EU trade deficit of almost 400 billion euros with China, Dombrovskis did not mince his words.
We also have real concerns about market access and other challenges. In a recent survey by the EU Chamber of Commerce in China, nearly 2/3 of respondents indicated that doing business has become more difficult. The business environment has become more political and less predictable. We have requested that our Chinese partners engage with us on these challenges. Specifically, we wish to see greater transparency, predictability, and reciprocity.
Economic relations between China and the EU were thrown into the spotlight earlier this month after the EU Commission launched an investigation into Chinese subsidies for its electric car industry. By distorting the market of one of Europe's industrial crown jewels, China has crossed the line. This is what Brussels was making Beijing understand. A serious downturn of the European car business could trigger a domino effect that Europe can't afford. Don't forget, the European economy remains sluggish and the inflation rate remains stubbornly high. And it's the latter that the European Central Bank is most worried about. At a hearing in Brussels this week, ECB President Christine Lagarde made clear that interest rates will remain high until the fight against inflation is won.
We remain determined to ensure that inflation returns to our 2% medium-term target in a timely manner. Inflation continues to decline but is still expected to remain too high for too long. In any case, our future decisions will ensure that the key ECB interest rates will be set at sufficiently restrictive levels for as long as necessary.
The flip side, as long as the interest rates in the euro area remain on historically high levels, it will be difficult for the economy to grow, something that is already starting to affect the rest of Europe, as latest forecasts suggest. Joining me now is Beata Jaworczyk, Chief Economist of the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development. Welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
So, in your latest report on regional economic prospects, you speak about shifting gears when looking at the EBRD regions. Tell us what you mean by this. What are your main findings?
Our report documents diverging paths of Eastern Europe and Central Asia. Eastern Europe has shifted into a lower gear, expecting economic growth of about 0.5%. That's very little because these countries are much poorer than Western European EU member states, so they should be growing faster than that. In contrast, Central Asia is enjoying strong performance, growing at 6% thanks to government spending, capital flows and remittances flows from Russia, as well as turning itself into an intermediary for trade between Europe and Russia.
So what are the most important trends influencing your latest forecast?
Weakness of the German economy translates into lower demand for exports from Eastern Europe. Inflation has eroded household budgets and led to slower growth of consumption. And uncertainty is detrimental to investment. But there's one bright spot, and that is tourism. Some economies in Western Balkans and Southern Europe are enjoying record high number of arrivals.
And how is Russia curbing growth prospects in Eastern Europe?
The fallout from the war is felt all over Europe. High prices of energy and food and the spike we saw, particularly in the first half of the year, led to high inflation and forced central banks to put brakes on the economy. However, Eastern Europe enjoyed higher inflation, and because of geographic proximity, uncertainty in that region was even higher than in the West.
There's little to suggest that the war would be over anytime soon. How will this further affect the economic outlook for the months ahead? Will it get worse?
Well, prices of natural gas in Europe are back to the pre-war levels. And yes, they are 4 times as high as in the US, and this is eroding European competitiveness. But the fact that they are back to the pre-war levels augurs well for growth, and next year is expected to be better, even if the war continues.
All right, Beata Jaworczyk, Chief Economist of the EBRD. Always a pleasure to have you on the show. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
We've already mentioned inflation. The latest annual rate in the euro area came in at 4.3%. That's below the price increase of 6.1% of a 1-liter mug at this year's Oktoberfest in Munich. The Mass, as it is called, costs up to €14.40 in the large beer tents. That's almost €1 more than last year. Also more expensive is a simple grilled half chicken, for which the hungry need to put up to €20 on the table. Yet revelers, decked out in traditional lederhosen and dirndl dresses, didn't seem to bother. The place was packed again, with millions of people expected to join in on the fun until the last day, next Tuesday. Can't make it to Munich by then? Don't worry, other German cities have their beer bash later in October. That's it for this edition. I'm Stefan Grobe. Thank you for watching. Have an excellent week.